Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Whoa, man, I almost had it. Oh, man.
You tell us the offseason.
Rookies. Hey, it's Oilers Live. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Mountain, right? Is that what it is? What time is it there? Is it still like lunchtime? And
we go back on the late slot and things go off the rails.
We're back on the late slot. Things are already off the rails. We're about 10 seconds in. My name is Michael, also known as Oilers Live. Got my co-host Dash in the park with me, and not so special guest anymore, just because he's on every week. Associate to the associate co-host Ryan Lotsberg, and then our dear friend. I don't even know where you're living now, but our dear friend Bob the Goalie. From a dumpster just in behind Rogers somewhere, and coming to us live. Who says his internet's maybe acting up a little bit? We'll see how it goes. We may trash you halfway through.
Yeah, try.
Okay,
What's up?
You're going to use that as an excuse now. You're not coming through, Bob. You're off.
I'll just be muting you halfway through when I don't like what you say. Oh, damn, Bob's internet's gone. How you guys doing? How's everybody doing? It's good. It's Wednesday night, right? We're talking some Oilers hockey. When do the captain's skates start? Are they like next week or what's going on? This should be.
I haven't heard anything. Maybe they learned their lesson from last year.
Yeah, I think they were skating by this time last year.
Well, McDavid and Matthews were tossing the puck around today.
Well, there's your captain's skate.
There's your cat. That's right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
JT, Pajama Boy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of neat. I have they trained together before? Like,
Yep.
no?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've skated together before, and it's just inevitable. Obviously, since McDavid's about to become a Maple Leaf, isn't he?
That's right. I forgot.
Don't you remember the story of like Austin Matthews hitting 60 and winning the Rocket, and then them training together, and McDavid like, oh yeah, I can do that too. I can score 60.
I mean, maybe he's giving Matthews a few pointers.
Well, it must have worked. He got 69.
That's true. That is true.
It's all McDavid's fault.
I mean, we're not gonna we won't spend a lot of time talking Leafs hockey ever on this. But, we'll have to. I mean, I am curious how Matthews is going to do this year.
Are you saying this is a really bad time to tell Bob that he's the new host of Leafs Live?
Yeah.
Well, it's appropriate since I'm living in a dumpster.
That's right.
Boom.
Well, and the least you can do is like put your picture up properly.
Yeah. I blew it up for you.
I know, man.
Missed you, Bob.
That picture, I'm gonna be staring at that picture. It looks like it's I don't know. Got like, is it on right or is it just the angle of your camera?
Nothing about me is on right.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. We're happy.
Like
We're happy to have you. We're gonna talk a little bit of hockey. Obviously, we're gonna talk a little bit of Oilers hockey. I got went on to Twitter at some point today, and Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's always a hot place to be when you want to talk hockey. And now Twitter does this thing, right, where it does these little side. It says explore, and it kind of gives you, like, it uses an AI algorithm or whatever, and makes up headlines, right? You guys seen that? Or is that mostly on the desktop? So if you're looking at it on the desktop, anyway, it's it tells you, gives you headlines for what's going on, what's trending. And the headline that I saw when I got onto Twitter today is Oilers talks with Draisaitl in jeopardy. Man, I tell you, and this is all
because it was said on Oilers Now, Michael.
It was said on Oilers. It
It's
was said on Oilers Now.
Yeah, and then Brendan Escott tweeted about it.
Well, he said that they're further apart than they originally thought.
Yeah.
Right. Jeopardy and further apart than originally thought are two very.
I think he framed it that way.
Saravalli tried very hard to frame it in such a way where there wouldn't be headlines made about his comments, but
Yeah.
the tries he made.
Yeah. Welcome to Oilerville, Frank.
I mean,
Everything's a headline.
of course, it was Saravalli that came out with, that the Oilers were going to sign Draisaitl, right? So if the Oilers, like, it's Saravalli who originally made us all believe that they were closer than we were led to believe, and now Saravalli that's saying maybe they're a little bit, I tell you, how my day is going. Like, there should be a Saravalli meter. Right? What's the Saravalli meter today? It's like a barometer, right? What's Saravalli saying today?
Are you sure they were talking? The talks are in jeopardy, or were they talking about jeopardy?
Yeah, well,
I'll take 13.5 million, Alex.
I mean, what? Like, I don't know. Who ever thought it would be easy, right? Like, the Oilers can't afford to pay Draisaitl a premium. He's got to take a little bit of a hometown discount, if you will, but at the same time, like, he's got to look after himself, right? So, are we back to thinking that maybe it's 4 or 5 years versus 8? I mean,
I said it was 5 right from the start.
You did say it was 5 from the start. I don't know. We should have a Saravalli meter. Would you think Frank would be upset with us? We got what's the Saravalli barometer?
If I know Frank, I think he'll take all the attention he can get. He's from Philadelphia.
I mean, he's the guy reporting on it mostly, right?
Yeah, he tends to know stuff.
Yeah.
Frank's pretty good.
So here's what Brendan Escott says. On Draisaitl remaining unsigned, Saravalli told me, in quotes, it's unfair to categorize it as hitting a snag. On a money basis, AAV, I think these two sides are a little further apart than I envisioned.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That doesn't say
that's how you framed it. No.
Yeah.
I said it's unfair to call it a snag, unfair to call it jeopardy. What if he's underestimating it? What if it's because it's not unfair to call it a snag because it's like an absolute explosion? Okay, here. Remember the tinfoil hats I was talking about last show? Remember? I was like, hey, maybe
we're selling heavy hockey tinfoil hats now on the site.
That's right. Yeah, buy a box of Alcan, wrap it around, and there was rumors that Jeff Jackson asked for those offer sheets so that he had an excuse to trade Dry's best friend Cody Ceci. Maybe Dry found out. Maybe that's what's in jeopardy.
Or what if Draisaitl is pulling a Gretzky here? When Gretzky and McNall were negotiating his salary when he first came to the Kings, they were doing the exact opposite of what players usually do. Gretzky saying, only pay me this. McNall saying, no, I want to pay you this. And they're going back and forth that way. So what if Draisaitl is undershooting his value and playing the Gretzky card? No, just give me 10 million. That's fine. No, Leon, we're giving you 16 million in the bag for it.
So
In this scenario,
What
does
a-
Daryl Cates also end up in jail?
I would love
One
to
step
get.
at a time. One step
like
at a
the
time.
Bob
Dash,
meter.
scenario.
I like the Bob meter so much more than the Frank meter. I love it. I love it. It could be. Some stranger says, "Have you tried to get Frank on?"
No.
We haven't.
No.
No. I mean,
Oilers
Well-
Nation calls us a so and so podcast.
that's right. That's right.
Some so and so.
They can't.
So and so's. And Frank
Oh man,
and those guys are pretty good buddies. So we just
they
we
are.
just-
They.
we stay away from that one.
You
'Cause
might say they're.
we're the best goddamn podcast going.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and it's, I'm of the same mindset. That's why I've refused every offer I've had from the Oilers Nation.
Well, and good.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm loyal
yeah,
to you guys.
I get asked to be on DFO all the time.
You know-
turn it down.
It's funny, Bob, because I keep telling them invite Bob on. And why don't you invite Bob? Bob's looking for a network to be a part of.
Recruit Bob. Recruit Bob.
Yeah.
We've had Jack
And
Michaels
they
on a
keep
couple
telling me,
times.
they're like, he keeps refusing. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Did you guys see Jack Michaels on Spittin' Chicklets?
Yeah, I got a couple clips.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
pretty
yeah?
good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to check that out. Jack's
I
good.
think Jack can hold his own on there. I'll listen to that one.
Oh, yeah, he did well. I don't listen to the Chicklets much, but I will when it's worth it. And I think Jack's worth it for pretty much any interview you can find about him. A lot of it was about his history and how he made it in Alaska and Pittsburgh and But it was pretty cool when he was talking about him and Paul Coffey. He said sit on the airplane together for about an hour of flight, and that he
So-
talks to him quite a bit. They become really good friends, and that he's just like absolutely blown away with what Paul Coffey's done with the defense, and that he's turned it into a family within a family. He asked Knobloch's permission to sit them all beside each other in the dressing room, and they all, have these defense conversations and meetings about, screw the forwards, screw those guys. They're going to get their recognition. They're going to get all their goals. Every single one of you are an all-star at some level of hockey. Play like that here. You're on the best team in NHL, which means you're one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Play like it. And I mean, hard to argue with the results.
True.
Well, and this is coming from a guy who wasn't all that keen on taking the job to begin with. So,
Yeah.
and he just blew the whole defensive world apart.
Yeah. Hey,
Now
Cuff,
we get
you want a coach? No, please. Okay, fine.
Now we get a full year with the guy, like a full year with him. Now he starts from training camp on, which is going to be amazing. And let's hope that he's at the point where he really wants to do this. So now imagine the changes they'll have, or the improvements they'll have made.
What's the over under on Knobloch for the season? Like, how many games does he get before we get a new head coach? and will the new head coach?
I hope
keep
it's at
Coffey?
least 82.
Yeah.
2-8-1 start.
Yeah.
That might get him out.
Well, will the new coach keep Paul Coffey? I laugh, but you know that it's nervous laughter because it's all too true.
They better keep
It's
Mark
funny because
Stewart.
we've seen it before.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Yeah, I mean the Oilers. Yeah, if anything, they're good at following a pattern. Paul Coffey. He did wonderful things. I don't think we can deny that. He seems to have, and maybe it's to your point, like what Jack Michaels was saying. He seems to have brought some confidence to the guys. I always thought with NHL players, right? Like every one of those guys have won championships at every level. Like even the guys drafted in the 7th round, they've all been the best at every level, and it becomes such a mental game.
Oh yeah,
When you get to that top level,
you're
that
playing
if you
against
can
the
find
best
somebody
in
who
the
can play it.
world. The best.
And a lot
in
of
the
coaches
NHL.
will they'll bench guys if they make a little mistake. Like they get the talent and creativity coached right out of them, get scared out of them. They make a mistake, they're on the bench. Right?
And it's similar to the argument I've pulled off on goalies a thousand times too. Is that you've got your elite 5, you're really really good 10 to 15, And honestly, I think like NHL talent is probably a little bit like that too. After you get past everybody's top six, honestly, there's not much difference. It's the difference is opportunity a lot of the time, and getting that opportunity to, to play or whatever, like I've done 2 or 3 hangouts now on Edmonton Sports Talk with Sean Bell, and, like such a glorious example of like an absolute junior stud where this guy was just like putting up 100-point seasons from the D position in junior and had to redefine his game, right? Like just completely become a role player and a dressing room guy and a penalty killer. And it's like awesome to talk to him off air too. And hear the stories of like the grind and how to have to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, any guy that that was drafted sort of later rounds or, worked their way into the league, right? Like they all have the same story. Yeah. And I think that's where, good coaches come in. We're going to talk a little bit about Ty Emberson. Speaking of coaches,
speaking of opportunities,
speaking of opportunities, coaches, Lotsy, you did a couple of articles on him. There's a couple of folks in the heavy hockey group that are big fans of Ty Emberson. But why don't you, Lotsy, like kick this off, because you've been doing a little bit of a deep dive on the player, on why the Oilers have picked him, or why you think the Oilers might have picked him. Kind of tee us off, and let's talk about Ty Emberson for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the piece I did today, in case you missed it, was about Michael Parkatti and his influence on the Oilers, but more specifically about the couple of moves, Emberson being one of them and Sam O'Reilly being another one.
So tell us first who Parkatti is, just for those who might not know.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up his actual title on the Oilers site here, but he's the head of the stats department for the
Senior
Oilers.
Director of Data and Analytics.
That's the one.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Just for those folks that, because to be fair, I'm not an analytics guy, so I actually had no clue who he was until I read your article. I just learned who Paul Coffey was like 10 minutes ago, so we're all good. No. All right. No, sorry. Carry on. Tee us up here.
Yeah. So basically, I was getting at basically Emberson is a data-driven move, right? Like he's 24 years old. He got 30 NHL games played. All came last season. Dealt with a couple of injuries. And yet we gave San Jose a top 4 defender and a 3rd-round pick to take him. Yeah, I put that 3rd-round pick. You could view that as the price you pay for a cap dump. But I don't think it was as much of a cap dump as it was about Emberson as well. Like, I think we're undervaluing what the team thinks of Emberson. So just as an example here, I got his Corsi 4 relative to teammates and Dangerous Fenwick 4 relative to teammates from Puck IQ. And his numbers against elite competition, like they just leap off the page. Like he was significantly better than any of his Sharks teammates were against elite competition from a Corsi perspective and from Dangerous Fenwick 4 perspective. So, and like he's in the 85th percentile of defensive impact at even strength. Like he's doing a lot of good things on the defensive side of the puck that you wouldn't necessarily see just from watching him. And now I'm looking at publicly available online data. Parkatti is a much smarter individual than any of us are, and he's able to compile his own data and his own statistics. They have things that they're looking at that we don't see. So I'm sure that Emberson compares pretty favorably in Parkatti's data, whatever that might be.
Now, some stranger says, wasn't he Jackson's first hire? I think you.
Not his first, but it was early in the process. I think he was like the second or third.
Yeah.
No, obviously.
Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, obviously, Lotsy, the cap thing did come into play.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. My concern about Emberson is, and by the way, that's a kick-ass article you wrote on him. for sure on the Heavy Lotsy Network webpage. the
Good one, Bob.
Emerson, like it took him 6 seasons of professional hockey, or after his draft to even see the NHL, and only has 30 games in. This is obviously a great opportunity for him, but what has stalled his progress? Like in a team like San Jose, which was a basement dwelling team, how come he wasn't getting ample opportunities there to maybe have some growing pains with him?
So he was not originally drafted by the Sharks. He's actually originally drafted by the Coyotes.
Arizona,
Then traded
yeah.
to the Rangers, and I think that's where he played in the AHL for Knobloch in Hartford. That's the Rangers affiliate. And then the Sharks picked him up on waivers from the Rangers at the start of last season.
So he was released by the Rangers.
Yeah, he was put on. Yeah, he was waived at training camp last season, and then the Sharks picked him up.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it was a training camp waiver pickup.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dash, go ahead.
No, that's okay. And I think on a side note, there's conspiracy theories that there was like a deal between the Rangers and the Sharks on a future considerations thing, and that's why that happened. But anyways, I'm just not sold. Like I honestly, I can't believe the hype. Like I'm a little bit dumbfounded and taken back that we're gonna sit here and, like, my God, this almost feels like here comes Justin Schultz. He's gonna win a Norris someday. Like, let's slow down, people. The guy played 3 years in college before he was good enough to play 3 more years in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
Before, at the age of 24, he finally gets 30 games in the NHL. Am I wrong? 30, 39,
30.
something like that?
30
games in the NHL. We can't even evaluate Evan Bouchard yet because he hasn't played 200 career NHL games, all he has now, let alone 30. And so, like, great article, Lotsy. Like, I can't disagree whatsoever. If I was to critique it, and here I am online doing it live instead of, sending you a professional text on the side. But I would have loved to have seen some research on the per 60, because, like, he didn't play a ton of minutes. He's still only playing, 16, 17 minutes a night. And I'm, like, honestly so kind of taken aback by this that I had to go and listen to a couple of Sharks podcasts. Right? Because that's what's, you want to find out why Ethan Bear got traded out of Edmonton. We'll go listen to a couple Oilers podcasts, and, a bunch of a-holes like us will talk about it. So what I hear in the Sharks organization is, like, don't get your hopes up too much here. Like, calm your boots. He's okay. He's not very fast. In some per 60 stuff that I've kind of heard about, and I can't even give the right reference because I can't remember who it was. Might have been Locked On Oilers. Talked about, I think it was Locked On Oilers. Talked about his, below average foot speed. If you compare him to all of his peers, kind of like a war statistic between all of his peers on a percentile, he's in the bottom 50th percentile in the league in almost all skating statistics. As far as, like, skating himself out of trouble. He's a poor puck transporter. He's at the bottom, below average. I shouldn't say poor, below average puck transporter. He was a below average or above average when it came to failed zone entries. From what I heard on a few Sharks podcasts is, honestly, like, I just kept thinking about Struddy.
Wait a second. There are a few Sharks podcasts out there.
There's,
I'm calling bullshit here.
There's an element. There's an element to his game that is, like, reminded me of Struddy, where it's like dump it out high and hard off the glass, make sure it's out of your zone, and he's not making tape to tape crisp pass. He's not skating himself out of trouble. He's not skating himself out of, bad cycle opportunities or anything. So he can get pinned in his own zone. Like I said, below average foot speed. And we're just going to anoint him Darnell Nurse's next partner and just expect him to, like, step right in.
So are we
I
doing
totally
that?
get that. I totally get that hesitation.
Are we saying that because of Stauffer, though? Like, Stauffer,
if Emerson's a
Stauffer
good
didn't say he's
a
blocked
homer
top
as anybody.
four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
not fair to say
Emerson's a
he's
good
lost the top
7th
four.
D, we should be happy and call that a win. The fact that we're making him a top 3 or 4 D and putting him beside Darnell Nurse. In fact, I heard consistently over and over again that he needs protected minutes. Well, Darnell Nurse is the opposite of protected minutes.
Yeah.
Darnell Nurse has the most unprotected minutes in the entire NHL over probably a 7-year average.
In fact, we need
I've got
somebody
no
to protect
problem
him.
saying that, Dash, like that he's like a 7th or a 6th defenseman. I've got no problem with that. I don't think, at least I hope not, that the Oilers traded CC for Emberson and Broberg's out the door, that they think that that's replacement enough. You know, I don't know who it was. Quaddy in the chat says the D has taken a step back. I don't think there's any doubt the D has taken a step
The
back.
D has taken a step back.
Yeah.
Penalty kill has taken a step back. Team toughness has taken a step
But the
back.
question I have is
Team
does
speed has taken a
does
step back.
Emberson replace a little bit of what Broberg gave us?
No,
I don't think so. Either.
none of it.
I don't think so either.
Absolutely none of it.
It's apples and oranges.
Polar opposite.
Well,
think
they're
polar
polar opposite of a player, but are they on the same trajectory? Like
And
in
if you look
terms
at it
of
from an age
how much they're going to
perspective,
play. Yeah.
I mean, they're
I mean,
24. and
wait,
no,
how are we going
Broberg
to?
has a ceiling to be a top 3 or top pairing D. I don't think Ty Emerson.
I thought we argued last week that he had a ceiling to be or like that his ceiling was maybe
Some would argue.
second
Some
line
would argue.
D.
Some would argue.
Yeah.
Is Emberson a pretty low risk player? Like if he keeps it simple, like you say, kind of like what a study did, is he kind of like a low risk, low reward kind of player, which definitely doesn't scream out top 4, does it?
No, and I'm totally with that, and I'm totally on board. Like I personally don't think it's a good game plan to just throw him in the top 4 right now. I see him as more number 6.
But who's putting them in the top 4? Like I honestly,
I think a lot of people
Oil
are.
country, dude. Listen to the radio. They're like,
Yeah.
I
they
think a lot
had
of people
debates on
are.
certain. Yeah, they're talking about is Ty Emerson going to be a starter for the playoffs?
Well, that's the problem. Not enough people listening to heavy hockey.
Like I'd say,
Yeah,
we're
like,
lucky
we-
to get a 6 out of him
something
now.
else
We'll
that's
trade for
Saravalli.
somebody at the deadline, and then he'll get probably.
I mean, because
pushed out.
look at Saravalli's comments, right? That there's still going to be a shakeup on D, right? And people are getting excited about that. To me, like you don't get excited about a shakeup or like a big trade coming that gets you a right-handed D if you think Ty Emberson is the answer.
And they're also
Right.
still looking at guys like Barry and Shattenkirk and Schultz.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that. I think there is a desire from oil country to say maybe we'll get something out of Ty Emberson, right? Like there's a wish and a hope and but we would have had the same wish and hope that we had getting something out of Broberg, who I'm not completely sold on. I think that St. Louis just got ripped off, and they're about to figure it out.
Just because Broberg played
yeah.
10 good games in the playoffs does not mean he's going to play 100 good games this year.
Yeah, that's exactly my
He's
thought
injury
process
prone,
on
too.
it. But we have to see what's going on. But I do think that for the most part, yeah, if anybody's putting them in the top 4 and having them play 80-some games after a 30-game NHL career, and they think he's the answer, well, I don't know. I mean, you got to get your Oilers colored glasses off. And
Okay, plot
Right,
twist.
that's
Plot
smart.
twist. Plot twist. Emerson is the answer. He shows up, kicks ass, like holy shit.
Yeah, well, great. I think every now and again, that's awesome. And if that's the case, and I think the Oilers, we talked about this last week, the Oilers can get by in the regular season on offense for a little while, not the whole season. I don't think they can, but I think they can. They can do better than 2-8-1, right? I hope.
Bob, do me a favor.
Yeah.
The other part of that, Michael, is
Go back and look at the rosters of the last Stanley Cup winning teams and find how many guys had started a defenseman with 30 games career.
No, I hear you.
On his
I'm totally
roster.
on board with what you're saying. All I'm saying is,
It doesn't work out because it doesn't work out. There isn't a history of it because it doesn't work out. You don't go and win a Stanley Cup having a guy in the top 4, 5, or 6 that has 30 games experience.
I
Sorry, Ryan,
100%
cut you off
agree.
like 4 times.
I 100% agree. Emerson is not the answer. Definitely not. I think right now the Oilers are kind of hoping that this makeshift rotation we have going in the bottom four for the right-handed D can sustain it enough so that when we get close to it, we can make a big splash maybe for to fill that hole at the trade deadline or closer to the trade deadline.
Get Cody
Or
Cease
maybe,
back.
as Saravalli says, a big splash is coming. Right?
What's
I
a
just
when?
don't
big
know.
splash? What's a big
I don't
splash?
know.
Actually, I want Ryan to comment for the first
Yeah.
time in 10 minutes, but
Do you?
yeah.
And
Put
I was
him
just
on
going to
mute.
say the other thing that we're not considering is the system, right? Like the defensive system that Knobloch put in place last year got the boys playing some good hockey, and they played really good shutdown defensive hockey for a good chunk of that 18-game winning streak. Right. And we know that Emberson has had success under Knobloch in that system already. Won the AHL Eastern Conference Defensive Player of the year that they were together. Right. So I think that's one reason why I think Emberson might be part of a makeshift solution. Like, I don't think we'll be sunk having him in the lineup. Like, I think he's based on what you were saying, Dash, and I came to the same conclusion when I was looking at his numbers. Like, he didn't excel defensively because he's keeping the puck out of his own end. It's because he's breaking up plays in the slot and he's breaking up zones or breaking up cycles in his own end. Like, he's playing well defensively in his own end, right? So I think he's a good fit in the zone system that Knobloch runs.
Yeah.
There'll be
I
people
think-
competing with him. Like, he's got competition there. Like, you got Josh Brown there too. Maybe a guy like Kemp wants to take a run for it, eh? Or what about this Connor Carrick that we picked up? These are all guys who are going to be trying to run up and fill these spots in there too. So Emerson still has a lot to prove to everybody.
And is it awful to start Kulak in your top four? Like, start the season with that? I mean, it's not ideal,
not
but
great.
Kulak's got experience in the league. He's
It'll
not
get us
like,
to the playoffs.
yeah.
I think it's our best
get us to the
solution
deadline.
internally right now.
Yeah. Unless the Fabro trade or coming or whatever. But like, just to end off on the Emberson stuff, I think if he can replace DeHarnay, that's a win. Not replace anybody with top 4 minutes like CC or whatever, right? Like CC, first line penalty kill, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think CC was on the ice for a power play goal against for the entire playoffs. Like, a guy with 30 games experience.
But the entire PK played unbelievable.
Yeah, sure. But, will they still? Like, DeHarnay and CC are both big components of that, and they're out. Like, they're gone. So maybe Mark Stewart's the wizard, and he can get Emberson integrated straight back into that penalty kill and work the same magic and work the same system. And only time is going to tell. But, I think, like, the big trade will come at the trade deadline. I think it's pretty well stated out there. That's why we're accruing the cap space that we are instead of going out and spending it. But like, what's this splash that they're talking about? What's a splash? Because there's we're not trading Nurse. That's negative value. We're not trading Ekholm because that'd be ridiculous. Right? Is the splash Bouchard? Because Kulak's not a splash.
No.
I was going to say Kulak is probably the only thing that we could really sacrifice that would constitute a splash, and only if a right-handed defenseman that can play in your top 4 is coming the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa, Michael. Why no? Bouchard, by all intents and purposes, gets more heat than almost any other Oiler out there other than Nurse. His defensive prowess and his ability to... Well, go ahead. Buddy, we're about to pay him $10.5 to $11 million.
You're going to trade a guy that just led the defense in scoring in the Stanley Cup
throw a PTO to Barry at league minimum. He slides right back into that power play. Bingo bango, 60 points for Barry. Honestly, how much would that power play get hurt with Bouchard being gone? 2%?
Well, let's say it does. Are you going to stake your reputation on it as a GM? Because that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You better make sure that return is damn good.
Yeah.
What if we did? Okay. Jump in your time machine. What if we'd have traded Darnell Nurse for 2 first-round draft picks and a prospect before we decided to pay him $9.25? everybody right now would go, "Hoo-hoo-hoo! Man, did we?"
I think like if there's anyone going, it's out of Nurse or Bouchard. It would likely be more on the Nurse side than it would.
Well, yeah,
be
but you
the
can't
Bouchard
trade
side.
Nurse because it hurts your team. But you trade Bouchard, get a defensive prospect and 2 firsts back. Then you go flip
There
those
would be
2
a
firsts.
there would
into
be a
cap
ton of
space.
people that would argue that trading Nurse would hurt your team.
Maybe.
And Nurse
Maybe it
also has
would.
the no move clause. So
Yeah,
unless
Yeah,
he's in
exactly,
control.
which is impossible. And Bouchard's under control. So what if you trade Bouchard for 2 first-round picks and a D prospect, and then you go and flip those firsts or a first and whatever you need to at the deadline to get a number 1?
Yeah. So what we need at the deadline.
Production from.
So what we need at the deadline then is probably.
Spot.
So we trade Bouchard for stuff and get these draft picks, prospects, whatever, and then trade for whatever we need at the deadline, and whatever we need is probably Bouchard. So we go back and trade for him again.
That's right.
We might be getting CC back from San Jose for all we know.
There's not many great options at the deadline, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's what all the podcasts in San Jose are saying. All the podcasts, Michael, all of them. That CC was brought in just to be a flip at the deadline for San Jose to pick up some more stuff. Why don't you want a Cody CC at the deadline with retained salary at $1 million and a bit, Stanley Cup Finals experience, Mr. Game 7? That's exactly who you go and get at the deadline. It's exactly who you go and get.
Yeah. And San Jose's got their own thing going. Like they're a non-issue right now, having some veterans to surround Celebrini. Good, right? Like it's who cares, right? Like, sorry, San Jose podcast guy, but who gives a shit?
That
right?
one guy. Sorry, that one guy.
Right? Like,
look, Draisaitl's gonna walk from the Oilers, go play in San Jose. And then the next time we do this show, I'll be wearing a San Jose hat.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think Bouchard. There's a lot of what ifs. I just can't see a guy, Jackson or Bowman or anybody okaying a Bouchard trade this season when like if last year wasn't Stanley Cup or bust. Like this year certainly is. And if anything goes wrong with the Draisaitl contract, well, yeah, that's so that the big, like a big splash. I don't know what it is. We're talking defense. Is it a forward?
No, they said on defense, but a big splash doesn't need to be a guy going out either. Is my second thoughts on it, right? Like it's bringing a guy in. So is bringing in Dante Fabro a big splash? I kind of think so. I don't know. He'd be okay with Nurse.
Well, he's a medium-sized splash if you look at the bottom 4 right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Who are the options? We got Anderson, Fabro.
Rasmus Anderson. Would you guys rather have Rasmus Anderson with Nurse?
So I put out a tweet a little earlier today. I did the math. And
Angel!
and unless
from California.
Yeah.
Unless we trade somebody out, like if we take the existing 900 and I think it was 500 in cap space that we currently have, you take Brown and Stetcher, put them down in the minors, that you get 2.73 repeating million in cap space. You got just enough room for Fabro at 2.5 or William Borgen at 2.7 without taking anything away.
Okay, Fabro has more experience. Is that correct?
I'd have to look at their games played. I think they're pretty similar in that way. I think Fabro's got a little more like top 4D experience than what Borgen has. Like Fabro's spent a good chunk of time with Yossi over the past couple seasons, but he's also spent time in the bottom pairing. I have Fabro's puck IQ up here. Last season, 31.3% of his ice time against elites, 36.5 against middle, and 32.2 against Grit City or low-level competition. So I think that's pretty much second pairing usage. But they went out and got Brady Shea this summer. He's likely to play top pairing on the left side. That moves Roman Yossi over to the right. They signed Alex Carrier as their own internal free agent this summer. He'll be second pairing right D. That leaves Fabro on the third pair, right? And so if the Nashville thinks they can get something for him, and, to start the season or go into the deadline with more draft capital, they've got 3 first-round picks this year, right? They want to do something at the deadline. Like, they're going to be a player. So does moving Fabro's money off the books help their deadline case? Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's not a terrible move for the Oilers, given where they're at. I don't know does that constitute splash? Maybe, I guess,
Depends on your definition.
Fabro's a known commodity in the league, I guess, right? Like it's, people know who he is. He's played, how many total games in the league?
You got his hockey DB up there.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at Elite Prospects, unfortunately. I need to look at Hockey DB because they're much better. Or Puckpedia.
Fabro has 309 games.
398, yeah.
309.
309. Well, I mean, it's better than what we've got, right? Like it makes.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like at the very least, if he's a 6th guy, right shot, I wouldn't be upset with that. Oil Country would get on board and tell you he's, top line D or second line D, right?
Yeah.
Him and Emerson are playing line first D pairing.
It reminds me of Dumbo a little bit. In that range, maybe.
It's not nearly as physical though.
Yeah, and a better skater. Yeah.
Yeah, like Fabro, he excels at puck movement. Like that's what he does well, as he moves the puck. But like his expected goals numbers, like if you look at his expected goals on Natural Stat Trick, I got here 55.25% last year. He's got 1 year below 50% in the last 4, which was 2 years ago at 49.04. So from an expected goals perspective, pretty good. If we compare that to elites, I guess Puckpedia doesn't have expected goals on there. Like, I don't think he's that bad of a choice as a top 4. Like, it would be a cheap option. It'd be a little bit of a risk. There's no guarantees that it works out, but he's a puck mover, and we need a puck mover beside Nurse.
Yep.
Well,
He has
it is a guarantee it moves out with the way it works out, the way the D is today, right? Like, if you keep him until the deadline, right, and you choose then what you're going to do with the defense going forward. I mean, it's a gamble if it works under the cap, like you did the numbers.
They wouldn't have as much financial freedom or flexibility because that would be with a 21-man roster. You put Kane on IR, suddenly you're down to 20. So that means like someone gets hurt while Kane's on IR. You either have to put him on to LTIR to be able to call someone up, or you play shorthanded for a game and then call somebody up on emergency recall. It's like not ideal, but there are workarounds.
And he's a full season rental, right? Like he's UFA next year, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, normally you get a rental at the deadline, but you're just getting a full season rental for a guy that is playing down the lineup at $2.5 million. Look, if they can make it work, he's not the worst of the options.
I think he's a good option. And like what Dash was saying too, he's a known commodity. We know what we're getting with him, right? 300 games, that's a good sample size. He got 17 games in the playoffs. He's never made it past the first round though. But he's been in the second season. I was looking and taking a quick peek at William Borgen too. Like he's got about 100 games less than the NHL's 214 games. He's a little bit taller, but Fabro seems to be a bit more heavier, a bit more tougher. But
then if he works out, you sign him, right? Like if he doesn't work out, then sayonara. Good luck. Good luck on your next contract, right?
Yeah.
Like
you've wasted
no commitment.
Then you've wasted more draft assets, and the rumored deal is 2025 second, 2026 third, and Max Warner. And then Phil Tomasino will be coming back with him as well. Like I like Tomasino. That'd be a nice little ad for the bottom 6. but you're wasting more draft capital if you're taking the risk on Fabro and it doesn't work out.
Yeah, well, didn't we get a couple draft picks for a couple guys that left town recently?
Which would be the only reason you could make the trade.
I can't remember. Just thinking right now. Yeah, it is the only
recollection of that.
Good to see the Oilers fanatic in the house. Little shout out. Fabro could always be flipped at the deadline too if you want to further upgrade and he doesn't work out. Absolutely.
Like my issue with the dedeadline thing is
flip Emerson too.
Like there's just no options available that are better at this year's deadline. Like I mean, I'll wait to see. I mean, Ekholm was available a couple of years ago. I didn't think he'd be available, so you never know. But based on the UFA list for 2025, the options are pretty much Fabro or Borgen that we can really afford, and that might be available. And I don't even know that Borgen's going to be available. Like I want him to be, but I would think that. They have Larson as a UFA coming up next summer as well. I think they'd opt to keep the younger guy and trade Larson at the deadline, if anybody. But unless some other stuff happens, we aren't going to be able to afford Larson. And no, I don't think Larson would want to come back here.
Adam Larson's never coming back to Edmonton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're lucky he comes here for visiting games.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, Bob. There's some truth to that, right? Like, sadly, there's some truth.
Yeah. Like, unless the team is going to retain a whole bunch of money on a guy like Burns or Petrie at the deadline, like, I just, or Pionk, like, I just don't see how you're getting an upgrade over what's available right now.
Yeah. So we've got lots of picks we've got every round in 2026. We're
for now
without a fourth in 2027, and 2025 though we're short first, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, we were down to our sixth and seventh till we got the compensation for Broberg and Holloway.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You know, I still contend, like, you got to do, like, I know, Ryan, you want this team to be good for the next 20 years. I could care less. I want them to win a cup in the next 2 years, right? Like, and if after that they sit on the bottom for 10 years, I could care less, honestly. Like, I want one cup, and if they get more, bonus, right? Those are bonus cups. But I want to see one cup in the next year or two, tops. And then, I think you can, go from there. So if they trade away like all of their picks in the next 2-3 years, good on them. Like if that's what gets us the cup this year or next year, preferably this year, right? Because my patience is wearing thin. But yeah,
I'm in the same mindset, Michael. I'm in the same mindset. The whole point is to win the Stanley Cup, and like one cup at a time. Of course, multiple cups is great, of course, but let's get that cup. McDavid needs a cup on his resume. We can sell the farm to give him that cup. You can always end up making trades. Easier said than done, I know. Make trades for draft picks, for prospects, whatever. If you do need to start retooling or rebuilding up your farm system. But at this moment, you've got to go all in to get you that Stanley Cup. I don't think we're not going to be down at the bottom anytime soon in the McDavid Draisaitl era. There's players that do want to come over here and play with those guys. So I think we'll be in the mix in some way or another in the future here. But let's get that first cup and then worry about that journey after that.
I'd rather cheer for an average Oilers team with Draisaitl and McDavid on it. Yeah, than cheer for a contending team without them. Sorry.
I don't see why those have to be two separate things, Dash. I don't see why you have to have why can't it be a contending team with McDavid and Draisaitl on it? Right? Like my fear is putting all your eggs in one basket. You don't win the Stanley Cup in the next year or two, and then you've still got McDavid and Draisaitl signed long term, and you're scraping, you're grasping at straws, trying to get guys that can help round out a lineup.
If you don't win,
those guys are here, the expectations are going to be up here, right?
You don't win a cup in the next 2 years, I don't think McDavid and Draisaitl are Oilers, to be fair. I honestly, I think
That's
everything that we've worried about, Yeah, I think that's the one time where Leafs fans would be like, McDavid's had enough, and I think he would. I think if he,
I don't know. I
if the
disagree.
pieces aren't in place, I mean, I would. Like if the pieces aren't in place in the next 2 years for him to win a cup, like he's running out of time, right? Like
Now,
there's
see, if
only
my
so
GM
many years
was
that you can start.
to, if my GM was to just, get rid of every possible resource that he might have to field a competitive team in the course of my next contract, and we didn't win it all, then I might consider packing it up, right? But if there's a plan in place to keep the team competitive throughout the next contract of McDavid, then I think it's more likely that he stays.
Yeah.
That's my big fear with, like I say, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket with no guarantee it works out, because there is no guarantee. Even if you go trade for Brent Burns right now, I know it's not going to happen and the money wouldn't work, but like even if you go and trade for the best right-handed D in the league, the most expensive one, there's not going to guarantee a cup. Go get Fabro. It's not going to guarantee you a cup. Nothing guaranteed.
Nobody ever said Fabro would guarantee a cup.
No, but my point is making a big trade and spending all the assets like you want to will not guarantee a cup, and it will screw you later down the road. I want as many chances as possible. If they don't win it this year, I want to have as many chances as possible.
But there's no guarantee we'll win it down the road then neither.
Yeah. I mean,
Also true, but the odds are higher with
are the
resources.
best. Crosby and Malkin to me are the best example, right? That's what we're looking at. Like as a Penguins fan, I love having Crosby and Malkin on my team, but I know that the chances of getting another cup are pretty slim, right? Like they're, unless if one of them goes, right? And they begin the Penguins rebuild, then the chances of another cup in Penguins near future is probably pretty slim. And look, if I'm a Penguins fan, I'm all right with that because they brought the cup home, right? Like they brought it to Pittsburgh. And as an Oilers fan, I'd have the same feeling. Like, I want to see these guys retire as Oilers. I mean, I'm an Oilers fan first, but love watching McDavid. I love watching Draisaitl play, and I'd love to see them continue to play. But first and foremost, I want to see a cup, and if they win the cup, is sooner than later is ideal. I think as every year goes past, it doesn't matter who you put on the team. Those guys get older. Other players come into the league. The Celebrinis, the Bedards, teams that have more of everything, more cap space, more draft capital, more everything, and it just becomes harder and harder to win a cup no matter how you built it.
Yeah. We're saying the same thing. I maybe was misunderstood earlier, but Grava called me dumb, and now my last feeling. I meant the same thing you just said. Like, if we're going to win our cups, first and foremost, go win the cups. That's my point. Yeah. And then you said to Ryan, you want the team to be good for 20 years. I'm with you. Like, I just want to win a couple cups and then cheer for McDavid and Draisaitl. Just like Crosby and Malkin. Like, I don't want to win my cups and then trade Crosby and Malkin off because that's the best asset management in the business of hockey. That's all I'm saying. I want to win my cups and then cheer for McDavid and Draisaitl as Oilers. Even if we don't win cups for the next 10, 12 years after that, I don't want to lose those guys. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, talking about the Pittsburgh example with Crosby Malkin, like they won their first cup in 2009. And I believe it was after that where, they signed their big contracts in an era where you could sign for 13 years or however long you wanted, right? But they won 2 more cups in 16-17. Like they went 7 and 8 years between cups, right? So you had one group of guys that did really well, then they struggled for a while, and they eventually got those 2 cups. Well, why? Like you got guys like Brian Rust and Jake Gensel come up. That's drafting and development. You don't get that without resources. And they were pretty aggressive at trading at the deadline every year, but they had picks hit. You've got to have some draft picks hit if you want to have a team that's going to be competitive down the road, right? And let's say they don't win that cup this year and you've squandered all those assets, right? Then all you're going to be doing is cheering for a mediocre team with McDavid and Draisaitl on it. But You think Penguins fans' expectations were that low when in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14? Like, no, they wanted cups. They expected cups because they had Crosby and Malkin, right? Oilers
win
fans
the
are going
cup
to be
this-
different.
Yeah, we don't
Oilers
win the
fans
cup
be no
this year. We
different.
might be cheering for McDavid in Toronto to win the cup.
Look,
I'm
you
just
guys,
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I just want to say we don't normally do comment of the night, but tonight we might. Some stranger. I'm with Michael. I think that's trending on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well. But anyway, just once
Some
once
stranger
in a
must
blue-
be, even though he's a stranger, a personal friend of mine, and he must be talking about me as Michael.
yeah. Michael Dash. There we go.
Well, I'm in huge rare territory too here because I also agree with you, Michael. This was
Jeez, your internet
I know,
really is
I know.
screwed.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
repeat that? I don't know if I heard that correctly.
No kidding. Clip that, Brett.
Oh, jeez.
I have never made a greater confession online in my life than what I just did just now.
No
But
kidding. Wow.
I'm that person who says you give these guys every opportunity per season to win the Stanley Cup. If that means throwing all your eggs in your basket this season, do it. And whatever you have left next year, because you didn't win this year, throw all those eggs in that basket and go again. Throw every egg you have in the basket every year you have while these guys are in their prime of their career to give them every opportunity to win a Stanley Cup.
I hate to agree with Bob. Ugh.
It's lonely over here, guys.
It's lonely in that corner, isn't it, Lotsy? Oh man,
Nobody puts Lotsy in a corner.
That's right. Nobody puts Lotsy in the corner. Comment of the night right there, Dash. That's good. No, that's good. I mean, look, I 100% get what you're saying, Ryan. I obviously want the team to be competitive year over year. I don't know if you guys know, but Ken Holland used to be GM of Detroit, and every year they used to have a good team. It'd be
One of the
great
greatest GMs of all time.
That's right. One of
Thanks
the
to
greatest.
the official guide and record book.
According to the guy.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, I just it is what it is. I mean,
Better be some hell of a splash. Honest to God, it better be. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a great team. We're gonna probably, march through into the playoffs with no problem.
Is there a rush to make a
We're-
splash though? Do you think? Like, what do you guys think? Is there a rush?
I'm
If the right
I'm
move's
a little bit
available, then we'll
scared. I don't think we can start as poorly as we did last year. I really don't think
Yeah.
we can. But have we turned over too many players, you guys? Like, we lost
David's
4 or
really close,
5.
you're right.
We lost 4 or 5 of the top 6 fastest skaters on the team. Fogel's gone, McLeod's gone, Broberg's gone, Holloway's gone. We lost 2 or 3 of our toughest guys. We need to drop the mitts and go. Our D wasn't always great as it was. It was already our Achilles heel, and now it's worse. And our penalty kill got worse. We just gave 2 of our best penalty killing defensemen. I don't know. Like, scoring was always our strength, and great, we've got more scoring. This kind of has to be some kind of a splash. Like, have we turned over too many of our players? What have we turned over? Like 7 out of 20? That's a lot. You got to get the chemistry going.
Yeah.
In the room,
None of the guys that
on the
we
ice
lost
and
are-
in the room.
Sorry,
So,
Bob.
What's up, Bob?
Yeah.
I said on the ice and in the room. Like, it changes the dressing room. chemistry as well,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, Dry lost his best friend in CC, and Holloway was at McDavid's wedding. All that matters apparently, but I don't know. What do you think, Lotsy? Did we turn too much over? Can the chemistry be damaged? Can we get tougher, faster, and keep the penalty kill going with what we got? What
Again,
kind of
I don't
splash?
expect. I never expected the penalty kill to be going at the same pace as it was in the playoffs, because what they were doing in the playoffs was unsustainably good, right? Like, we have to expect that to take a step back, even if we had returned the same guys. I think the PK will be fine. There's been a couple articles done on Team Speed recently. Low Tide did one, and I think Oilers Nation did one. I think it was NHL Sid, but both said that most of our guys are above average. And yeah, we did lose a little bit of speed, but we're still well above average for team speed. So, like, I'm not super concerned about that. I mean, the team chemistry thing, yeah, you could. I mean, CC was Leon's friend, and like it was Bouchard, Holloway, Fogle, McLeod. They had a little bromance going, the four of them. Now Bouch is the only guy left, right? So, I mean, was it that little click you want to call it? I don't know, but I think the room is strong enough where I don't think it'll be a big issue. Like the core of the group is so tight, and the guys in the room are so mature. I just don't see it being a huge issue. I think they'll be focused on the task at hand this season, which is bring home that cup. And I don't think that little bit of turnover that we've had is going to be that detrimental.
And the leadership is the same, right?
The leadership is the same.
Yeah, Angel said it there. All bottom six guys, and they average 7 minutes a night. So, is that big of a deal? Yeah, great point. McDoust, Oilers struggled with finishing last year. Skinner Arvidsson will help with that. Can't disagree with that either. Great points.
Yeah. I'm going to thank you for highlighting the Sid.
Grava just made it up to me with that comment. He called me dumb earlier, and now I like him again.
Yeah.
What good is the speed of McLeod if he stops before making body contact or overskates the puck? Like, I don't know. I'll never, ever forget when Joaquin Gage said that Ryan McLeod plays like two trailer park girls. Round the outside.
Round the outside.
One of the best comments on radio ever. Yeah, fair enough, Grava. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's so back to the question. Lotsy, you think a splash is an immediate requirement, or are they good going into the season with what they got?
I don't think it's a requirement. I mean, it all depends on what the splash is. Like, I would need to actually know what it is before it gets made. But if it's Fabro, I mean, I don't know that it's crucial. I'm sure it'd be nice, but there's also a lot of merit in, I mean, given the stance I just took, I don't necessarily want to trade Warner. But, I mean, if he gets you a legit top four right now, then sure, why not? But to answer your question, I don't think it's a necessity right now. Like, I think they can start the season with what they have. Like, I think there's ways to insulate Emberson and insulate the bottom pairing. I think we'll be okay for a little while. Like I said, I just don't know what they're going to get at the deadline. That's going to be so special.
Yeah. We did sign a bunch of nasty pricks, though. Like, honestly, like Arvidsson is an absolute terror to play against. Skinner's got a bite to his game and can be a excellent chirper and a guy to get under your skin. He's like, how many years in the league? He's been on the great end of the ratio of drawing penalties, and it's going to be interesting. How many goals do you guys think Skinner can put up? I don't even think he's going to get to 30, to be honest. But
if he gets 25, I think you'll like that.
After predicting 70 for Connor Brown last year, I'm going to go a little bit.
Yeah. Oilerslive.
For the record, I did
Connor
not
Brown,
predict
70 and 70. He predicted.
I did not predict 70 for Connor Brown.
I don't know. These people talking like Skinner's going to get 40 goals, and
I mean, that's what we do,
approach
right?
50, and it's like, get your Oilers colored glasses off, though. Like, the guy's not even going to play first line power play.
He might get 40 in preseason, though. I mean, everybody
when the Ty Ratty award
that he'll get,
he'll get the Ty Ratty goal scoring award. That's right. Jeez. Bob,
I think
you're the last one up. Is the splash urgent?
No, I'm with Lotsy on this one here. I think.
Dash said the same.
Well, yeah, okay. Who isn't though? Well, also alluding back to what Dash said earlier, like it's almost it's unfathomable to think that we'll have a rougher start this year than what we did last year.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, but we've pretty much put the formula out there to have a bad start. No captain skate, God forbid, and a whole bunch of new players, new chemistry. I don't know.
Well,
I think the first 20 games or so will be kind of like our test proving ground to see what these guys have. And I mean, if it's painfully obvious after a 20-game mark or roughly that we desperately need some sort of splashing effect on the right-hand D, then I guess we'll have to go for it. But let's give these guys, let's see what they have, and we can sustain it. our team defense overall, including the forwards, is going to be a bit better this year too, I feel, and like a full season that way. So we might be able to shelter these guys a little bit and see what they have, and we could be okay. We could hang in there until the splash is needed.
Yeah. So Jeff
You should
in
be able to
the
outscore
comments
mistakes.
says- Jeff in the comments says, in my opinion, Oilers D might get lit up. I think he's absolutely 100% right. They
I
might
do
get
too.
lit up, but
we'll outscore our
they-
mistakes.
like we gotta outscore them. Exactly. Yeah. I think you're. If anybody out there thinks the D is better this year, they're. I don't. They clearly haven't been watching heavy hockey, but
Or hockey,
they're,
period.
or hockey period. Yeah, for that matter. But
Our defense, obviously, our defense is worse, but they might get lit up. Yeah, they might, but they also might not.
that's true. They gotta play to their strengths.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Coffee runs the bench, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we like to have pairings all drawn out nicely on a piece of paper, that the guys rotate every game, and like even in game sometimes, like you might see Ekholm and Bouchard together lots, and you might see Ekholm with a guy like Emberson at times to insulate him a little bit. You might, right? Like Kulak might get some second pairing time, and he might get some third pairing time. You might see the ice time heavily skewed in favor of the top three guys, and less so for the bottom three guys. It'll be really interesting to watch as the season goes on.
Knobloch's got a gold finger for finding who's going and putting guys together too. So,
yep, 100%.
What are we going to see? We got to, and maybe this is for next week. We got to talk. But Bob, we haven't talked about goalies. Grava brought up Picard. In terms of a leash, if he's got one. I mean, Picard's been a very capable backup for the Oilers, I think. And to kind of, it is nice to not be like screaming about goaltending right now. I mean, but we'll see once the season starts what happens.
It's also nice that they only cost $3.6 million.
That's right. That is nice, 100%. And then the other, part that whether we talk about it tonight, because we got about 20 minutes left before we're going to call it a night, is and again, this is thanks for all the comments, Grava, but you're bringing up some things. One thing we haven't been talking about is Kane returning to the Oilers. Right? Like we're talking, obviously he's going to be out. We expect him to be out to start the season. But he will return at some point, or that's the expectation. I suspect if from what we're hearing is correct, he'll return sometime in season. It's not going to be a Mark Stone special. But he's going to make a difference on this lineup too. He's a talented player, and he plays with some grit, and he's kind of the ace in the hole if you think, right, like you're going to get the way now that they've got they should be able to start the season without having to put them on LTIR, right? That's so that's a serious benefit to the Oilers. And if Angel brought it up, and again, it's being brought up in the comments, but Arvidsson might be, it might be a little bit injury prone, and if Kane comes back, I mean, he can always fill in there, right? So there's some things that, I mean, this is definitely one of those seasons where it could go a million different ways, right? Like with the Oilers, but. I think it's safe to say we all agree that Oilers need some help on D, and that's going to be first and foremost on Bowman's track right now. If it's I'm really, really, really curious what Saravalli's hearing. Like if he from this splash perspective, I think if a splash, then it's all interpretation. To me, that means somebody's going out, right?
Wow.
Like that.
What he said was to
coming in or both.
things up.
What's that?
His words were a trade that would shake things up.
Yeah.
Not necessarily making a splash, right?
Okay, so like a shake up to me suggests somebody on the way out.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. So that
For the record,
the Frank meter, right?
I don't know.
For the record, this has got to be the wettest Oilers Live episode ever with all the splashing that we're taking part of here.
That's
Oh
right.
my God, Bob.
Jeez. Missed you, buddy. Missed you.
I really thought you were going somewhere completely different with that.
Yeah, and in some way, I'm glad it wasn't the way I thought you were.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Only partly glad. All right. Well, now there it
How do we
goes.
follow
We're
that
on the
up?
whole episode off the rails. An hour and 10 in. Yeah. Look, there's still lots of areas for the Oilers to go. The offer sheets. One thing we've talked a lot about offer sheets. Obviously, this off season. It was interesting to hear Stauffer. Stauffer is the epitome of Homer. I love the guy, but man, everything. So he's still not maybe as big a Homer as Rod Phillips was. I mean, listening to Rod Phillips on the radio,
I don't know.
if somebody
I don't
fell
know.
down, Rod Phillips was like, "Oh my, he got torn down."
Bob's the same way. Bob comes from school
Bob
of
is-
ragu
they are-
when it comes to the refs, and it's always their fault. And drop the puck. I don't know.
They're very.
Nobody's a bigger Oilers fan than Bob.
Very
I don't
much big Oilers fan, and in some way you got to understand it. Like Bob is a employee of the Oilers, right? So he works for the Oilers. He's part of their broadcast team. It would be seemingly a little bit silly if he wasn't. But anyway, the whole Bob thing. And you put me onto that podcast where Stauffer was a guest and talking about the offer sheets, and almost the underlying message from Bob is there's a conspiracy in the league against the Oilers when it comes to offer sheets. Like 25% of them have been done against the Oilers in the time that they've been done. But I'll say this.
Maybe we shouldn't be signing all the league's leftover a-holes all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I do.
There's no barn fight this time.
I do. I'm all right with this. Like, this is, Heavy Hockey's Jeff Aid said offer sheets make for some exciting commentary, and it's been in an off season that we kind of, we signed Arvidsson, we signed Skinner, and we're all patting Jeff Jackson on the back, and then all of a sudden, a couple offer sheets come in, and I was ready to take the summer off because it was going to be boring. Now it's exciting again, and good on the St. Louis Blues for taking advantage of the opportunity to get a couple guys they thought would make a difference. I've got my own personal opinions on whether or not it was a good signing for them, but hey, I love it. A lot of people say Oilers fans are pissed off. Not me. I'm happy to have the conversation and talk about it, and might actually end up in our favor.
I'd like to retract my last statement of saying that it's too bad there's no barn fight. I'm up to promote a barn fight. I want to see Doug Armstrong beat the crap out of Bowman in a barn. That's actually what I want to see.
Yeah, well, the opening card would be Berkey and Lowe, wouldn't it?
Hey, yeah.
Angel says,
they might be
let's go to some of the comments here, guys, and then we'll call it a night. We'll start Angel here. If Edmonton can trade Nurse with a pick and then get two mid-top four defensemen to complement Bush and Ekholm, I believe Edmonton wins the cup with Nurse. It complicates it with cap and mental lapses. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you think of Nurse.
Man, that frees up 9.25.
But the cap side, yeah.
And if I won the lottery, I have several $1 million to play with as well.
Well, 9.25, 10 million in cap should get you a couple of decent mid defensemen. Not mid, like the kids say.
McDoust says Fabro is great at puck retrievals and zone denials, would complement Nurse well. I just don't see why Nashville moves him.
Well, it's like Broberg, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if Broberg's out skating around or Fabro's out exiting the puck, then Nurse is forced to stay at home. And we all know that a simple Nurse game is the best Nurse game.
And no, 100% agree. Like I am a fan of Nurse. I am. I think he gets into trouble when he tries too much. But like you say, Dash, if he keeps it simple, he is a very effective top pairing defenseman. I think. I think sometimes he tries too hard. He tries to do too much. He feels the pressure of pushing the pace or of creating a play that might not be there.
He's one of our best skating defensemen, and so he's got this switch where he flips like I gotta skate us out of trouble. And unfortunately, I think more often than not, when he tries to skate us out of trouble, he just ends up skating us into trouble because he tries to do too much.
Or forces
What
a
if you had a
play.
partner that would bail him out? Like, I don't know, a Ty Emberson who's incredibly defensively focused. Food for thought.
High and hard off the glass, baby.
Not with coffee behind the bench. That ain't gonna fly.
Let's
Could be
just
true. Nurse is in the leadership group, and I agree. Like, I mean, I think Nurse might be the Mark Messier of our team in the dressing room. When the doors are closed and it comes down to it, like McDavid and Dry aren't going to be the guys to blow their tops or to throw somebody up against a wall and slap them. You know, like I'd be terrified of Nurse. And I've heard Tom Gazzola say it both on the air and off the air. But like, if you take the give a fuck factor, Nurse is up there, not just on the Oilers, but in the entire NHL. Like nobody cares as much as Darnell Nurse. So, you know, and I'll defend him. Last comment, sorry. And I'll defend him till the end of earth because of the fact that we underpaid him for 4 years before he signed that 9.25.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And like you mentioned, though, that's one of his biggest strengths, how much he cares. That's also one of his biggest weaknesses. Sometimes he cares too much, and that's why he ends up trying too hard in certain situations where it's not called for.
Yeah, I've always said Nurse, if played in the right, like put in the right situation, is a very, very valuable.
Salary aside,
absolutely.
Salary aside, we want Darnell Nurse in our top three.
Yeah. Some stranger says we don't have Jack Campbell to start the season. I think we'll be fine. I was looking for one comment.
Can we read Oilers Fanatic again? I want to jump back in there because I was actually thinking that earlier too. He said the only move that I can see is replacing Kulak. So like if that's the shakeup, I can see that's a shakeup. Like I think if it's maybe not a splash, but it's a shakeup. If we lose Kulak, take that extra 1.75 towards a top 4D. Yeah.
I've been saying that Kulak's a luxury we might not be able to afford for a while now. I was all for trading Kulak in order to keep Broberg. Right, that would have been the move I would have considered.
Well, if we didn't sign Kulak to 4 years, Broberg might still be here.
Exactly. Like Kulak
was
the guy.
Oilers Fanatic though also suggests, which I'm not won't argue with, is you could always flip Fabro at the deadline, right? Like if it doesn't work out. Yeah. There was another one. Oh yeah, back to the. I think it was Grava was talking about it. I mean, we're not going to play Skinner, and nobody does. Nobody plays Grant Fuhr type of games anymore. Like, how many games is Skinner going to get? And is Picard on a leash at all? We don't really have anybody that's ready, I think, to come and play backup in the Oilers organization. That has any experience right now, right? So what's that look like, Bob? You're the goalie. Give us.
I do think I strongly believe that Stuart Skinner will establish himself as a top 5 goalie in the NHL this year. Pickard, he deserved the new contract. He deserved another shot because of what he did do for us when he got called up. But I don't have the biggest of confidence in Pickard. I'm not sure if he kind of sustained. I kind of felt like he fed off the momentum he got when he got called up, which is probably a little bit unsurprising to him, and took advantage of that situation. Right now, he's automatically penciled as our number two guy, and I'm wondering if he can sustain that kind of level of play. He has a history of being up and down kind of goalie, and so I don't even consider him really technically one of the best backups in the league. He has the potential to be, and I hope he is. But I think, again, we come into a spot where our number 2 goalie might come into question. I want to see Olivier Rodrigue called up once or twice this year just to see what he's got at some point. Wouldn't be surprised though if we see a guy like Skinner play, close to 60 games this year.
Oh God, I hope not, man. Including
Unless
the
we
playoffs?
get-
we've
Including
got
the playoffs?
Dalia, right? We've got Dalia sitting there too, right? Like he could fill in a few games here and there, right? Like he's played a number of games in the NHL.
I totally disagree, Bob. I don't think we can run Skinner out for another 80-some
No.
games this year.
I'm not saying I want him to, but I'm saying if we can't find that spot, and in all honesty, Michael, you're right. I forgot about Colin Delia for sure. So I think it's a battle here between Delia and Pickard for that number 2 spot. Pickard, I think, has it right now just by what he did last year. But again, Delia to me is also, a big question mark.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a solid number 2 yet that can help carry the load sustainably for Skinner right now.
I think
I don't want to see him play 60 games. I don't.
I think you plug any goalie in there at Pickard's level from 100 to 200 in the league, and they'll do just fine with the Oilers because they're a good team.
But what are we asking the backup to play? How many games are we asking the backup to play?
I'd like
30
him to
games?
play 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're asking. So if we split that up between like Delia and Pickard, each get 15 good ones, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if
Dalia played. Well, he didn't play. He didn't even play last year. He played 20 games for Vancouver in 2022, 2023. Not great numbers. 882 save percentage. Like, who was talking about Jack Campbell? Some stranger? Maybe we get him back. Is that ship sailed? Are we?
Let's go grab Ryan Murray and Mark Fane.
Jack Campbell. Yeah, I mean, there's look. Again, like you could get I think a capable backup. I'm more inclined to believe Skinner's ready to be a bigger presence in net than he has been throughout his whole career in Edmonton. And he played pretty damn well down the stretch. And I think defensively, finally, at least the system and the team looks like they can start to help the goaltending a little bit more, right? Like, we've talked about that at length, how sometimes the goaltenders might get the short end of the stick in Edmonton because the defensive structure wasn't quite there yet, right? Goaltenders can only do so much. It's like in rec hockey, I always ask my goaltenders, I'm like, you got the first 6 shots and I'll pick it up from there. And the Oilers play a very, very similar style, right? So, yeah, I mean, if we if Pickard's not doing the trick, I mean, there's going to be backup goaltenders available, whether they're free agents or whatever, that throughout the season, right, that they can maybe start in the minors and bring up. And they don't need to play, to your point, Dash, maybe they play 15 games and Pickard plays 15 games, right?
That was Bob.
Yeah.
That was Bob.
Okay, yeah. Dalia is definitely not the answer. Like for
See, Bob, he does only listen to half of what you say. Inside joke from before the show.
Half might
and
be
the other half he attributes to you.
That's right. Yeah. Lotsy, you've been quiet there.
What you say is actually coming out of my mouth. Wait, what?
Lotsy, thoughts on that? Like, what's your thinking from a goaltending perspective?
I'm not as worried about playing Skinner that many games as you guys are. Like if he's 55 to 60, I'm okay with that. As long as they're intelligent about when
80, 90 games, 2 seasons in a row.
Other goalies have done it before, and the kid's young. He's young.
He is young.
But I mean, what else are you gonna do? Like I don't think it's as simple as you've played 15 games now, Calvin Pickard. We're gonna call it Delia now because we don't believe in you anymore. All of a sudden, I don't think they're planning to play. I don't think they're planning like that. Like I could see Pickard getting 20, 25 games and then Skinner getting 55 to 60, somewhere in there.
They're convinced Pickard's their guy, or they wouldn't have given him a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I want him to be the guy.
Right? He played well enough last year, though, to deserve the chance.
Yes,
absolutely he did.
Yeah, if he he gives the Oilers what he gave us, gave them last year,
That's a big if.
it is a big if. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ifs on this team right now, and probably Pickard's the least of them.
I mean, last year was the first time Pickard played more than a handful of NHL games since 2018-19, where he played 17 with two teams. He has a 50-game season under his belt in Colorado in 16-17, but that was a disaster.
Well, they were hoping he was going to be their starter that year. They were grooming him to be the franchise goalie.
Yeah, it's like I like 23. I don't see I don't see Pickard giving us much more than that. It might even be a little less than that. So I mean, Skinner's the guy. Aside from that,
Yeah, I mean, there's not much doubt. Although it is nice that this is the first time we've talked about goaltending in a little while, right? Because it was Dash and I argued about it at length last year, and it's just nice to get onto something different. Right?
Who was right?
yeah. And the thing last year too was like it's hard to find. It's hard to find the goaltenders that are better than what you have during the season.
Yeah.
New Jersey had to battle it all year.
Yeah.
I do want to see Rodrigue called up, though. I want to see him play a handful of games. Let's give him a shot at some NHL shooters here and see what we got to work with there.
I didn't listen to Gregor's show today, but the Oilers fanatic said that Kevin Lankinen's a possibility. Is another backup and around $1 million.
Yeah, Lankinen's out there, and he's had moments in the past, but is he better?
Goalie depth hurt us? He'd be good, right, Lotsy? We could use a little more depth, no?
Yeah, I mean, doing that just pushes Rodrigue down, and you're stunting that guy's development, which I don't think is a good plan.
No, I think you keep him as the starter in the AHL. I think you just have a conversation about whoever you bring in, that they're the backup in the AHL, and they're going to have to play their way up.
And that's Colin Delia. So why did they go out and get Delia then if they're going to do Lankinen? I mean, I think Lankinen would be an upgrade on Delia. I just don't see them adding anybody else to the organizational depth at this point.
Yeah. I don't think it's a priority, to be fair.
I don't think so either.
I think they at least they think they're set, unless if, like this is what they believe is going to be good enough to get us through to the.
I don't even see Lankinen as an upgrade on Pickard. So.
Yeah, like exactly. We don't know that Lankinen is. Like I say, he's had a couple moments.
They're all the same.
I don't know that he's any better.
They're all the same.
They're all the same. All right, guys, we're cutting down to about an hour and a half, so I think it's about time we go. I'm going to say a couple last words. We'll go around the horn. After me, Dash, you can go Lotsy, and then Bob, special guest tonight, and dear friend of the show, who gets the last word tonight. I want to thank you, everybody that's tuned in on X, formerly known as Twitter, YouTube, here. Twitch, Facebook. Thank you to everybody, and thanks for all the comments, some great ones. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks to the Oilers Fanatic for a couple of great comments and chat, and I'll give him a little shout out, youtube.com/the Oilers Fanatic. I think you can find his page. Hit like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe at Heavy Hockey Network if you don't already. Because we always need more subscriptions there, and talk about. We're going to start talking more and more about the Heavy Hockey Showdown in support of the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton. That's booked. It is booked for March 15th of 2025. So put that in your calendar right now. That's a done deal. Same format as previous years, 2 teams, fundraising, all of that. Last year we were close to $50,000 in total funds raised. We hope to smash that this year, and we've got some time. So every year it just keeps getting better. So expect lots of new announcements and the way that we do it, and of course Edmonton Sports Talk is a big part of that. So that's all coming up. And that's it for me. I'm going to pass it off to Dash, and everybody have a great night.
Yeah, I've filled my podcast with my voice enough, probably. It's what I do best, and interrupting people. So sorry, Lotsy, I did that to you a lot today. You know what? I just want awesome turnout. Like we had a ton of YouTube guys. We had a ton of great. This, it makes the show so much more fun when everybody's interacting like this. So honestly, I can't even list y'all, but Jeff and some stranger, you guys are on all the time. Appreciate it. Angel, welcome back. McDoust, awesome. Oilers fanatic, awesome. Rye guy, Quaddy, fuck, who've I missed? I don't know. Thanks. I just really, 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 really appreciate being able to do this. This is a Oilers fans podcast for the fans and by the fans, and kind of just like a dream come true to get and do this with a couple of friends and some awesome commenters. So it's pretty awesome. Thanks, guys. Right?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on that, the comments were awesome tonight, and it's always, you guys are the reason that we do this. You're the reason we have a show. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for commenting and interacting. It really does make the experience better for everybody. The only Oilers related thing I'll say right now is I'll clarify that, I did the piece on Emberson, and I do think he's a great data-driven pickup. I don't think he's going to be I don't think it's a good plan for him to be top 4 right now. So yes, I like the player. Maybe he develops into a shutdown guy you like to see in the top 4 at some point in the future, but not right this second. But anyway, thanks to everybody, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all again next week. Bob.
All right, one last thing for Dash there.
No, go ahead, Bob. You're good.
All right. So, Bob, you know the rules. Say goodnight when you're done. Don't take up more than 10 seconds. Yeah, I know. You got as much time as you need.
Don't agree with Michael again.
Yeah. Talk some Oilers hockey. Everybody else have a great night. Bob, take us away.
Well, always appreciate the invite, boys, for coming on here. Always enjoy talking hockey with you guys. It's a rare episode for me because I did agree with Michael. And always agree with Dash pretty much. I always love disagreeing with Lotsy, even though Lotsy, I have utmost respect for the stuff you say and write on the website for sure. Great to hear about the feedback from the fans. Like Dash said, this is by the fans, for the fans. You guys give us this podium where we can talk, and it was a really big pleasure for me to be on the wettest episode of Oilers Live in the history of Oilers Live. So take that for what it's worth, and have a good night.
Oilers Live.